Good afternoon. Today we're going to be reading through chapter 20 of Dracula by Bram Stoker, but we're not just going to be reading the words, we're going to be stopping and talking about interesting vocabulary words and interesting phrases. So if you're an advanced learner of English, this is a wonderful way to improve your vocabulary or to get a deeper understanding of certain words and phrases. And we're doing this live, so you can ask me questions in the chat. What does this mean? What does that mean? Also, I would encourage you to stay till the end, because what we've been doing is people have been joining me on Discord. We still run the video on YouTube. And we've been practicing some of the words that we learned, some of the vocabulary words that we learn in the chapter. But the focus, and this is the fun part, the focus is on pronunciation, intonation, and accentuation to get the rhythm and the tones of English. So if you're trying to reduce your accent, this is a really wonderful way to do that. And we do that for about an hour. And you're welcome to also join my Discord server if you would one day like to practice live with me. Right now, I think we can really just do 2 people at a time. So hopefully I have 2 volunteers by the end of the chapter. All right. Well, let's get started with chapter 20 of Dracula. Jonathan Harker's Journal, 1st of October. Evening. I found Thomas Snelling in his house at Bethnal Green, but unhappily he was not in a condition to remember anything. The very prospect of beer, which my expected coming had, opened him... This is written strangely. Let me read that again. The very prospect of beer which my expected coming had opened to him had proved too much, and he had begun too early on his expected debauch. Debauchery is bad activities, usually drinking, gambling, all the bad things. But let's ask ChatGPT. Debauchery. Not a terribly common word. Well, I guess it depends on your habits. Excessive indulgence in sensual pleasure. So drinking, smoking, gambling, doing bad things. I learned, however, from his wife, who seemed a decent poor soul, that he was only the assistant of Smollett, who, of the 2 mates, was the responsible person. So off I drove to Walworth. It's funny, because recently I've been obsessed with talking about the word on, meaning continuing something. Talk on, continue talking. Go on, continue going. A lot of times you can use on to mean continue. What does that mean, though, if you say off? Off you go kind of means leave. How did he say it here? So off I drove to Walworth. All right, so he went to go see somebody who was already drunk. So he went to go see his more responsible partner. So he left that place to go to this other place, Walworth. And that's why he says, off I drove. I left that place and then drove to Walworth. That's what it means. So off I drove to Walworth to found Mr. Joseph Smollett at home, and in his shirt sleeves, taking a late tea out of a saucer. He's a decent, intelligent fellow, distinctly a good, reliable type of workman, and with a headpiece of his own. He remembered all about the incident of the boxes, and from a wonderful dog-eared notebook. Let me show you what that means. That's kind of an interesting phrase. I do this all the time. If I'm reading something and I want to remember where I stopped, I do this to one of the pages. And this is called dog earing, because maybe it looks a little bit like it hangs down like the ear of a dog. So this is a dog-eared page. He remembered all about the incident of the boxes, and from a wonderful dog-eared notebook, which he produced from some mysterious receptacle about the seat of his trousers, and which had hieroglyphical entries in thick, obliterated pencil. Hieroglyphics, you know, the famous Egyptian hieroglyphics. Let's see. That's really like picture writing. So these are Egyptian hieroglyphics. So I guess what that means is this man had drawn pictures. I'm not sure, but maybe that means he drew pictures in his notebook. I can't think of what else that could mean. Which he produced from some mysterious receptacle about the seat of his trousers, which had hieroglyphical entries in thick, half-obliterated pencil. He gave me the destinations of the boxes. There were, he said, 6 in the cartload which he took from Carfax and left at 197 Chicksand Street, Mile End, Newtown, and another 6 which he deposited at Jamaica Lane, Bermondsey. If then the Count meant to scatter these ghastly refuges of his over London, these places were chosen as the first of delivery, so that later he might distribute more fully. The systematic manner in which this was done made me think that he could not mean to confine himself to 2 sides of London. He was now fixed on the far east, on the northern shore, on the east of the southern shore, and on the south. The north and west were surely never meant to be left out of his diabolical scheme. We've seen that word diabolical. That comes from the same word as devil. Diabolical means evil. Sorry, I just want to make a note of a word. But now oh no. Wait, give me a second to straighten this out. I meant to open a Word document to make a list of words to practice, and I accidentally closed it. We've got Pachu here. Hello, Pachu. How are you doing today? Let's see. All right. Let's continue. Pachu Smollett, that's just a family name. That's like a last name. Sarkhan says, these types of inversion rarely seen in modern text. Off I drive. No, it's pretty common. It's pretty common. I used to teach English at a language institute here in Mexico City, and my boss was a British lady. And then when she wanted me to get out of her office or tell me to leave, she would say, "Off you go." It's pretty common, actually. Maybe it's not so common in North America, but it's not unusual. It's not weird. The North and West were surely never meant to be left out of his diabolical scheme, let alone the city itself, in the very heart of fashionable London and the Southwest. I went back to Smollett. So Smollett, that's just the family name of somebody, his last name, and asked him if he could tell us if any other boxes had been taken from Carfax. Oh, but Sarkhan, it's kind of rude. She would say it in a nice way, so it didn't seem so rude. She wasn't being rude, but that could very easily be interpreted as rude. Off you go. Get out of here. Depends on how you say it. He replied, "Well, governor, you've treated me very handsome. I had given him half a sovereign, and I tell you all I know. I heard a man by the name of Bloxman say 4 nights ago in the R and Owns in Pincher's Alley, as how he and his mate had a rare dusty job in an old house in Purfleet. There ain't a many such jobs as this here, and I'm thinking that maybe Sam Bloxman could tell ye summat." So he's saying, let's try to translate that. So he says, you treated me very nicely, because he says I had given him half a sovereign. That's old British money. I don't know how much that is now. Let's see. Let's just see how much money that is. Oh, wow. That's a lot of money. That would be worth about $300 now. I didn't think it was that much. Well, he is very generous. All he wanted was some information. Maybe ChatGPT is wrong, because that seems like too much money. So he says, he replied, "Well, governor, you've treated me very handsome." So he said, "You treated me very nicely." I had given him half a sovereign. "And I'll tell you all I know. I heard a man by the name of Bloxham say 4 nights ago in the Hare and Hounds," so some pub, which the name of the pub is the Hare and the Hounds. A hare is a type of rabbit. "In Pincher's Alley, as how he and his mate had a rare dusty job in an old house at Purfleet." So several days ago, he was drinking with some guys at a pub, and they were talking about some weird job that they had in a place called Purfleet. So maybe that's a town or a street or something. "There ain't many such jobs as this here, and I'm thinking that maybe Sam Bloxon could tell you somewhat." So he's saying there aren't a lot of jobs like that around, so he's probably the person you're looking for. Sircon says, "I guess it's a gold coin." It says what kind of metal. Yeah, it is a gold coin. Oh, maybe that's because of the gold. Like maybe ChatGPT is saying, well, I mean, technically, yes, it's worth $300 now, but it probably wasn't that value 130 years ago. But it's still a lot. Pachu said he put ounds. Well, a lot of people, certain accents in the UK They don't pronounce the H's at words. When you see, look at this. You see this mark over the ERE? That's an apostrophe. So that's apostrophe ERE. When you see that word, that means letters are missing. So that's why when you do a contraction like don't, you put the apostrophe between the N and the T, because that means there's an O missing there. So when you see that in a word, that always means letters are missing. So in this case, it's an H. Look here, Governor. There ain't no sense in me. Oh wait, where was? So you can see here the hair and how. So each time there's an apostrophe, you know that there's a letter missing. So this is hare. A hare is a type of rabbit, and the apostrophe is there because the D is missing, and ounds, hounds. Here there are some accents in the UK. They don't like to pronounce H's in the beginning of words. So he's saying air and ounds, and that means hare and hounds. Hounds are dogs. I asked if he could tell me where to find him. I told him that if he could get me the address, it would be worth another half a sovereign to him. Wow, that's a lot of money. I'll tell him where it is. So he gulped down the rest of his tea and stood up, saying that he was going to begin the search then and there. Gulp. So gulp down, that is a phrasal verb, but gulp is the action of swallowing something, and it's actually the sound of swallowing something. Here's a gulp. That's a gulp. So if you drink something very quickly, you might make that sound. Or maybe even if you're pouring something from a particular type of bottle, you'll hear that sound. That's gulping. So gulping something down means drinking something very quickly. At the door he stopped and said, "Look 'ere, guv'nor, there ain't no sense in me keeping you 'ere. I may find Sam soon, or I mayn't. But anyhow, he ain't like to be in a way to tell ye much tonight. Sam is a rare one when he starts on the booze." Booze is a funny word for alcohol. Usually you only talk about booze when you're talking about, you can have like a 1 drink or 2 drinks. That probably won't make you drunk. But if you're drinking solely for the purpose of getting drunk, you might call it booze. Give me some booze. And you can predict that person will probably want to get very drunk. That's kind of a funny word for alcohol, booze. So he's saying, well, you can go visit him if you want, but, he's been drinking, and when he drinks, he gets really, really drunk. So I don't think he'll be able to tell you anything. Sam is a rare one when he starts on the booze. If you can give me an envelope with a stamp on it and put your address on it, I'll find out where Sam is to be found and post it ye tonight. But ye'd better be up arter. Wait, that's weird. Okay, wait. You'd better be up arter. I'm soon in the morning. Never mind the booze the night afore. You'd better be up arter him soon in the morning. Maybe you'd better be up after him soon in the morning. Never mind the booze the night afore. Well, that's a little bit hard to interpret. This was all practical, so one of the children went off with a penny to buy an envelope and a sheet of paper, and to keep the change. When she came back, I addressed the envelope and stamped it, and when Smollett had again faithfully promised to post the address when found, I took my way to home. We're on the track anyhow. I'm tired tonight, and I want to sleep. Mina's fast asleep, and looks a little pale, too. When you say that somebody is fast asleep, that means that they are sleeping very well. They're in the middle of a deep sleep. Pachu says went off. That just means leave. Where was that? I can't find it. Oh, here. This was all practical. So one of the children went off with a penny. So one of the children left. Just like earlier, we were talking about how that word off could mean leaving. Off you go. That means you leave. Get out of here. Something like that. Or if you're about to go, if you're about to leave home, you might say to the other people in the house, I'm off. That means I'm leaving. And you can even say to where. I'm off to the store. That's very common, actually, to use the word off. Actually, I'm going to put that on the list. That's going to be one of our words today. To be off. So one of the children went off. So one of the children left with a penny to buy an envelope and a sheet of paper and to keep the change. When she came back, I addressed the envelope and stamped it, and when Smollett had again faithfully promised to post the address when found, I took my way home. We're on track anyhow. I'm tired tonight, and I want to sleep. Mina's fast asleep, and looks a little too pale. Her eyes look as though she'd been crying. Poor dear. I have no doubt it frets her to be kept in the dark. I think we've talked about that word fret several times, and that means to worry. It worries her. To be kept in the dark means to not know the details about something. People are not sharing information with you. They've been keeping Mina in the dark. They haven't been telling her about the crazy things that they've been doing because they don't want her to get upset. So they've been keeping her in the dark, not sharing information with her. Her eyes look as though she'd been crying. Poor dear. I've no doubt it frets her to be kept in the dark. So it worries her that they're not sharing information. And it may make her doubly anxious about me and others, but it's best as it is. It's better to be disappointed and worried in such a way now than to have her nerve broken. The doctors were quite right to insist on her being kept out of this dreadful business. I must be firm, for on me this particular burden of silence must rest. I shall not ever enter on the subject with her under any circumstances. Indeed, it may not be a hard task after all, for she herself has become reticent on the subject. To be reticent means to be like unwilling or hesitant. Let's see. To doubt. Quiet and unwilling to communicate openly. Hesitant to reveal information or take action. Preferring privacy or discretion. Indeed, it may not be a hard task after all. She herself had become reticent on the subject. She didn't seem to want to talk about it. And has not spoken of the Count or his doings ever since we told her of our decision. 2nd of October evening, a long and trying and exciting day. Trying here means, trying mean like attempt, but trying also means stressful, difficult. So here trying means like difficult or stressful day. A long and trying and exciting day. By the first post, I got my directed envelope with a dirty scrap of of paper enclosed, on which was written with a carpenter's pencil and a sprawling hand, Sam Bloxham, Corcoran's 4 Potters Court, Bartle Street, Walworth, Arsk for the Depite. I got the letter in bed and rose without waking Mina. She looked heavy and sleepy and pale, and far from well. I determined not to wake her, but that when I should return from this new search, I would arrange for her going back to Exeter. I think she would be happier in our own home, with her daily task to interest her, than in being here amongst us and in ignorance. I only saw Dr. Seward for a moment and told him where I was off to. Here we go again with the word off meaning where I'm going. So I told him where I was leaving to, where I was going to. That's a very common thing to use off in this way, of leave. I only saw Dr. Seward for a moment and told him where I was off to, promising to come back and tell the rest. So soon as I should have found out anything, I drove to Walworth and found, with some difficulty, Potter's Court. Mr. Smollett's spelling misled me, as I asked for Potter's Court instead of Potter's Court. However, when I had found the court, I had no difficulty in discovering Corcoran's lodging house. When I asked the man who came to the front door for the Depite, he shook his head and said, I don't know him. There ain't no such a person 'ere. I never 'eard of him in all my bloomin' days. Don't believe there ain't nobody of that kind livin' 'ere or anywheres. I took out Smollett's letter, and as I read it, it seemed to me that the lesson of the spelling of the name of the court might guide me. Where are you? I asked. What are you? I asked. I'm the deputy, he answered. I saw at once that I was on the right track. Phonetic spelling had again misled me. A half-crown tip put the deputy's knowledge at my disposal, and I learned that Mr. Bloxham, who had slept off the remains of his beer on the previous night at Corcoran's, had left for his work at Poplar at 5 o'clock in the morning. He could not tell me where the place of work was situated, but he had a vague idea. Vague means not so clear. He had a vague idea that it was some kind of newfangled warehouse. Newfangled, that's an expression that you use when something is new to you and maybe you don't like it or you don't understand it very well. So you don't just call it new, you call it newfangled, which means, it's some new thing. I don't know. I'm not very comfortable with it, whatever it is. And I think warehouse means warehouse. But Pachi was asking about at my disposal. Uh, that kind of means like for me or ready for me or something like that. If something is at your disposal, it means you're free to use it. It's yours to use. So he says, I saw at once that I was on the right track. Phonetic spelling had again misled me. A half-crown tip. So he gave the deputy half a crown, a coin, some kind of currency. And now the deputy's knowledge was available to him. It was his to use. It was at his disposal. And I learned that Mr. Bloxam, who had slept off the remains of his beer of the previous night at Corcoran's, had left for his work at Poplar at 5 o'clock that morning, and he could not tell me where the place of work was situated, but he had a vague idea that it was some kind of newfangled warehouse. So newfangled, newly made, newly constructed warehouse. But it kind of gives the idea like, I don't know, I don't care about that place. It's some new place. Who cares? It's kind of hard to explain. I'm going to ask ChatGPT. I'm getting myself in trouble. I should just ask ChatGPT instead of talking. Let's see. An adjective describes something new or recently invented, often with a tone of skepticism or disapproval. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, you say, it's new, but I don't understand it. I don't like it. I don't care about it. Something like that. That's a funny term. Pachu says warehouse is warehouse. I think it is. I think it is. I'm not sure though. Let's see. Maybe we'll find out. Well, I mean, they're asking. What they're trying to do is find out where all of these missing boxes are. So it would make sense if they were put in a warehouse. So he had some vague idea that it was some kind of newfangled warehouse. And with it, this slender clue, I had to start for Poplar. So all he knows is if he goes to this place Poplar to look for some kind of new warehouse. One of them suggests, oh wait. It was 12 o'clock before I got any satisfactory hint of such a building, and this I got at a coffee shop where some workmen were having their dinner. One of them suggested that there was being erected across Angel Street a new cold storage building. Let me read that again. One of them suggested that there was being erected at Cross Angel Street a new cold storage building. And this suited the condition of a newfangled warehouse. Yeah, okay, so, imagine this is the 1890s. Refrigeration. I don't know the history of refrigeration, but I don't think it would be pretty impressive if they had a warehouse to store cold things in the 1890s. That's probably the newfangled thing that the guy doesn't understand. How can they refrigerate things? It doesn't make sense. And so when they said, oh, well, they're making that building, he said, that's the newfangled building he was talking about, the newfangled warehouse. And as this suited the condition of a newfangled warehouse, I at once drove to it. An interview with a surly gatekeeper. Surly means not very friendly. But let's ask ChatGPT. Bad-tempered, unfriendly, rude. I've lost my place. An interview with a surly gatekeeper and a surlier foreman, both of whom were appeased with a coin of the realm, put me back on track of Bloxham. To appease someone is to avoid making them be angry, or taking them from angry to something calmer. Pachi is asking about the word privilege. I don't remember reading that word. I don't see that word. Where was it being used? He was sent for the privilege of asking him a few questions on a private matter. Let's see, let's read that again. An interview with a surly gatekeeper and a surlier foreman, both of whom were appeased with the coin of the realm, put me on track of Bloxham. He was sent for on my suggestion that I was willing to pay his day's wages to his foreman for the privilege of asking him a few questions. Privilege means like special exception. So this man doesn't want to waste his time talking to this weird guy coming around asking questions he shouldn't be asking about. He doesn't want to be bothered with something like that. So he's paying them all money to earn that privilege, to earn that special exception. Sirkan says, bribe them. Yeah, right. Isn't the... I know that in Arabic, but I think they use that word in India too, as bakshish. Do they use that in Turkey also, that word? Pachi, do they use bakshish in Nepal? Is that the word that you would use? He was sent for on my suggestion that I was willing to pay his day's wages to his foreman for the privilege of asking him a few questions. On a private matter, he was a smart enough fellow, though rough of speech and bearing. When I had promised to pay for his information and give him an earnest, he told me that he made 2 journeys between Carfax and a house in Piccadilly, and then had taken from this house to the latter 9 great boxes, main heavy ones, with a horse and cart hired by him for this purpose. Sirkan says, in here also, author used previous... Really? They used the word bakshish? I don't remember that. I asked him if he could tell me the number of the house in Piccadilly, to which he replied, well, governor, I forgets the number, but it was only a few door from the big white church, or something of the kind, not long built. It was a dusty old house, too, though nothing to the dustiness of the house we tooked the bloomin' boxes from. How did you get in if both houses were empty? There was the old party what engaged me a-waitin' in the house at Purfleet. He helped me to lift the boxes and put them in the dray. Curse me, but he was the strongest chap I ever struck. And him, an old feller, with white mustache. One that thin, you would think he couldn't throw a shatter. How this phrase thrilled me through. How this phrase thrilled through me. Why, he took up his end of the boxes like they was pounds of tea, and me a puffin' and a blowin' before I could upend mine anyhow. and I'm no chicken neither. So what he's saying is, uh, the guy asks, how did you move these boxes into these empty houses? Who let you in? And he said, well, there was an old man, and he's describing Count Dracula, and he says, wow, that guy, he was strong. He's an old man, but he was really strong. And I was embarrassed because it was really hard for me. I'm young and strong, and this old guy was doing a much better job. Pachu's asking about upend. Upend means to turn something over. Where was that? Upend mine, anyhow. Uh, so he says, why, he took up his end of the box like they were pounds of tea, and me, that's puffing. Puffing and blowing air, puffing and blowing afore I could up mine anyhow. So upend, maybe, I mean, really upend would mean turning upside down like that, but I don't think that's what he means. I think he means lifting up his end of the box. And I'm no chicken neither. And take up is very literal here. It just means take up. That means like pull up, push up. How did you get into the house in Piccadilly? I asked. But he was there too. He must have started off and got there afore me, for when I rung the bell, he came and opened the door itself and helped me carry the boxes into the hall. The whole 9? I asked. So let's see. He was there too. He must have started off and got there before me. So they put the boxes in one building, and then the guy left to go to the other building. But by the time he arrived, the old man, Dracula, was already there. And he's saying, somehow he arrived before me. Yeah, that's because he turned into a bat and flew there. And Pachi's asking about started off. Here we go with the word off again. It's funny how you notice these things. Here off means leave. So he started off. He must have left before me. He must have started leaving before me, because when I arrived at the other building, he was already there. I rung the bell, and he came and opened the door himself, and helped me carry the boxes into the hall. So when I rang the bell, he came and answered the door, and he helped me carry all the boxes into the hall. The whole 9? Yes. There was 5 in the first load and 4 in the second. It was main dry work, and I don't so well remember how I got home. Uh-oh. So he was saying it's hard work, but he says he doesn't remember how he got home. That's weird. I interrupted him. Were the boxes left in the hall? Yes, it was a big hall, and there was nothing else in it. I made one more attempt to further matters. You didn't have any key? Never used no key, nor nothing. The old gent, he opened the door himself and shut it again when I drove off, and I don't remember the last time. But that was the beer. And you can't remember the number of the house? No, sir. But you needn't have no difficulty about that. It's a high 'un, with a stone front, with a bow on it, and steps up to the door. I know them steps, having had to carry the boxes up, with 3 loafers, what come round to earn a copper. Pachu says, "Ow, ohm." I'm not even sure what you're referring to there, but so let's try to interpret this. No, sir, but you wouldn't have any difficulty finding that house. It's a high house. It's a very tall house with a stone front and a bow on it. A bow is like a circular shaped window. I just want to show you a picture of that so you can imagine. Whoops, that's not right. In North America, you would call this a bay window. They call it a bow window. So he's saying it's a very easy house to recognize. It's very tall. It has a bow window and high steps to the door. I know those steps because I had to carry all those boxes up with 3 loafers. Now, to loaf means to be lazy and do nothing. So maybe there were 3 men sitting on the street doing nothing, maybe drinking or something like that. And he said, hey, come over here. I'll give you some money if you help me carry these boxes. He's calling them loafers, which means they're lazy. They don't like to work. With 3 loafers, what come round to earn a copper. Copper, that's like a penny, I guess. Well, in the United States, pennies are copper colored. So I guess maybe in the UK also, but I don't know. That's not very much money. 3 loafers would come around to earn a copper. The old gent give them shillings, and they seeing they got so much, they wanted more. But he took one of them by the shoulder, and was like to throw him down the steps, till the lot of them went away cussing. So they just wanted a little bit of money. They were expecting pennies, but Dracula gave them a lot of money. He gave them shillings. I don't know how much. Let's see. I'll ask. We do some Victorian currency conversions. That's about $4 now. So, they were expecting a couple of pennies, a couple of cents, but they got like $5 instead. So when they weren't expecting that much, and when the Count gave them this much money, they got excited and tried to get more money from him. And then he got mad at them, and he took one by the shoulder, and he threatened to throw him down the stairs if they didn't go. And then it says they went away cussing. Cussing is saying bad words, like, oh, shh, or oh, f-. And then you can, wait, where's my, oh, shh, oh, f-. That's cussing. So they went away saying bad words. I thought that with this description I could find the house, so having paid my friend for his information, I started off for Piccadilly. I had gained a new painful experience. The Count could, it was evident, handle the earth boxes himself. If so, time was precious, for now he had achieved a certain amount of distribution. He could, by choosing his own time, complete the task unobserved. At Piccadilly Circus, I discharged my cab and walked away westward. Do you know, just a little side comment. I heard that Queen Elizabeth proudly has said that she's related to this. To remember the person, the character that this is based on. We've looked at pictures of him before. This is like 500 years ago or something. But apparently Queen Elizabeth is related to him. And she's very proud of that. Wait, let's see. I'll ask ChatGPT. Let's see if that's true. I was just listening to like a podcast or something and they were talking about it. Just a coincidence. And I thought that was interesting. It says, yes, Queen Elizabeth II had a distant genealogical connection with Vlad the Impaler, the 15th century ruler of Wallachia, modern day Romania, who inspired the legend of Dracula. So it's true. Well, it's a small world. At Piccadilly Circus, I discharged my cab and walked westward. Beyond the Junior Constitutional, I came across the house described and was satisfied that this was the next of lairs arranged by Dracula. A lair is a place where someone lives. What is the implication, though, of that word? Why not just say home? Lair sounds scary or dangerous. A place where wild animal lives, or a hidden, secluded retreat or dwelling, often in a sense of secrecy or solitude. Imagine a scary animal where they live. That could be a lair. A spider's lair. It sounds scary. Oh, wait a minute. I've lost my... Sorry, I just have to straighten out my vocabulary words here. Okay. I discharged my cab and walked westward beyond the Junior Constitutional. I came across the house described and was satisfied that this was the next of the lairs arranged by Dracula. The house looked as though it had been long untenanted. A tenant is a person who rents an apartment or a house. So if you rent a house or rent an apartment, you're a tenant, and then you have a landlord, and you pay the landlord money. That's what tenants do. So an untenanted house means that it hasn't been lived in for a long time. The windows were encrusted with dust, and the shutters were up. All the framework was black with time, and from the iron the paint had mostly scaled away. It was evident that up to lately there had been a large notice board in the front of the balcony. It had, however, been roughly torn away, the uprights which had supported it still remaining. Behind the walls of the balcony I saw there was some loose boards whose raw edges looked white. I would have given a good deal to have been able to see the notice board intact, as it would perhaps have given some clue to the ownership of the house. I remembered my experience of the investigation and purchase of Carfax. I could not but feel that if I could find the former owner, there might be some means discovered of gaining access to the house. There was at present nothing to be learned from the Piccadilly side, and nothing could be done, so I went around to the back to see if anything could be gathered from this quarter. The mews were active, the Piccadilly house being mostly in occupation. I asked one or two of the grooms and helpers whom I saw around if they could tell me anything about the empty house. One of them said that he had heard it had lately been taken, but he couldn't say from whom. He told me, however, that up to the very lately there had been a notice board of "for sale" up, and that perhaps Mitchell and Sons and Candy, the house agents, could tell me something. And he had thought he remembered seeing the name of that firm on the board. I did not wish to seem too eager, or to let my informant know or guess too much, so thanking him In the usual manner, I strolled away. It was now growing dusk. Dusk, uh, we talked about the word dawn, which means sunrise. So you can say sunrise or you can say dawn. They mean the same thing. And there's an alternative word for sunset, which is dusk. So if you're talking about the sun going down, you can say sunset if you want, but you can also say dusk. It means the same thing. So thanking him in the usual manner, I strolled away. It was now growing dusk, and the autumn night was closing in, so I did not lose any time, having learned the address of Mitchell, Sons, and Candy from the directory of the Berkeley. I was soon at their office in Sackville Street. The gentleman who saw me was particularly suave in manner. Suave means smooth. So if somebody is suave, they're very uh, they deal with people in a very easy way, a way that uh, it's enjoyable for other people. So the gentleman was very suave. He was very easy to deal with, very nice, made him feel very comfortable, but uncommunicative in equal proportion. So he was very nice and very friendly, made you feel comfortable, but he doesn't like talking about things. He didn't like to say things. Having once told me that the Piccadilly house, which throughout our interview he called a mansion, was sold, and he considered my business as concluded. And when I asked him who had purchased it, he opened his eyes and thought wider, and paused a few seconds before replying, "It is sold, sir." So he didn't want to talk about who bought it. "Pardon me," I said with equal politeness, "but I have a special reason for wishing to know who purchased it." Again he paused longer and raised his eyebrows still more. "It's sold, sir," was again his laconic reply. I think we've seen this word laconic several times, and if my because I don't really I haven't seen this word before reading this book, but it's been used maybe in Gone with the Wind also, but it means using very limited words. Let me just test that. I think that's what it means. Only saying what is necessary, brief, concise, but it's not a word that you would use in normal conversation. What do you think of John? "Oh, he's very nice. He's a bit laconic." Don't do that. People will say, "What? What are you talking about?" Wild animal lives, Oops. Or sorry about that. Okay. "Surely," I said, "you do not mind letting me know so much." "But I do mind," he answered. "The affairs of their clients are absolutely safe in the hands of Mitchell, Sons, and Candy." This was manifestly a prig of the first water. From what I understand, the word priggish means like to be, uh, to use a lot of ceremony or to, well, let's get a better definition. Self-righteous, overly proper, or moralistic. Uptight. I think in contemporary English, if you said uptight, that would be a good way to use it. He was very uptight. This was manifestly a prig of the first water, and there was no use arguing with him. I thought I had best meet him on his own ground, so I said, "Your clients, sir, are happy in having so resolute a guardian of their confidence. I myself a professional man. I am myself a professional man. Here I handed him my card. In this instance, I am not prompted by curiosity. I act on the part of Lord Godalming, who wishes to know something of the property which was, he understood, lately for sale. These words put a different complexion on affairs. He said, I would like to oblige you if I could, Mr. Harker, and especially would I like to oblige his lordship. We once carried out a small matter of renting some chambers for him when he was the Honourable Arthur Holmwood. If you will let me have his lordship's address, I will consult the house on the subject, and will in any case communicate with his lordship by tonight's post. It would be a pleasure if we can so far deviate from our rules as to give the required information to his lordship. I wanted to secure a friend and not make an enemy, so I thanked him, gave the address at Dr. Seward's, and came away. It was now dark, and I was tired and hungry. I got a cup of tea at the Aerated Bread Company and came down to Purfleet by the next train. I found all the others at home. Mina was looking tired and pale, but she made a gallant effort. Gallant means like brave. To be bright and cheerful. It wrung my heart to think that I had to keep anything from her, and so caused her inquietude. Thank God, this will be the last night of her looking on at our conferences and feeling the sting of our not showing our confidence. It took all my courage to hold the wise resolution of keeping her out of our grim task. She seems, however, more reconciled, or else the very subject seems to have become repugnant to her. If something is repugnant, it's disgusting, something that makes you feel sick. So the idea of wanting to know or wanting information about, or the details about what they were doing, that idea had become repugnant to her, disgusting to her. For when any accidental allusion is made, she actually shudders. And we've seen that word shudder many times. Ooh, shudder. I'm glad we made our resolution in time, as with such a feeling as this, our growing knowledge would be torture to her. I could not tell the others of the day's discovery till we were alone. So after dinner, followed by a little music to save appearances even amongst ourselves, I took Mina to her room and left her to go to bed. The dear girl was more affectionate with me than ever, and clung to me. Clunging means holding very tight. Cling, clung, clung. And clung to me as though she would detain me. There was much to be talked of, and I came away. Thank God, the ceasing of telling things had made no difference between us. When I came down again, I found the others all gathered round the fire in the study. In the train I had written my diary so far, and simply read it off to them as the best means of letting them get abreast of my own information. When I finished, Van Helsing said, "This has been a great day's work, friend Jonathan. Doubtless we are on the track of the missing boxes. If we find them all in that house, then our work is near the end. But if there be some missing, we must search until we find them. Then shall we make our final coup, and hunt the wretch to his real death." We all sat silent a while, and all at once Mr. Morris spoke. "Say, how are we going to get into that house?" "We got into the other," answered Lord Godalming quickly. "But Art, this is different. We broke the house at Carfax, but we had night, and a walled park to protect us. It would be a mighty different thing to commit burglary in Piccadilly, either by day or night. I confess I don't see how we're going to get in unless the agency duck can find us a key of some sort." Lord Godalming's brows contracted, and he stood up and walked about the room. By and by, he stopped and said, turning from one to another of us, Quincy's head is level. This burglary business is getting serious. We got off once already. All right. To get off means to avoid getting in trouble. To escape without getting in trouble. So they managed to do it one time without encountering any trouble. We got off once all right, but we have now a rare job on hand, unless we can find the Count's key basket. As nothing could well be done before morning, and as it would be at least advisable to wait till Lord Godalming should hear from Mitchell's, we decided not to take any active step before breakfast time. For a good while we sat and smoked, discussing the matter and its various lights and bearings. I took the opportunity of bringing this diary right up to the moment. I'm very sleepy and shall go to bed. Just a line. Mina sleeps soundly, and her breathing is regular. Her forehead is puckered into little wrinkles. Puckering is when things become very tense. Like, this is puckering your lips. That's puckering your lips. So, probably if we looked at pictures of pucker, it would just show what I just showed you, the lips. Let's see. Pucker. Oh, it's a drink. Try puckering. Well, I think that's funny that actually it's not the first thing that you see. Whoops. Well, you know, just as you see what I'm doing with my lips, you can see that sort of same uneven, tense pattern in this cloth. So here, this is puckering on jeans. Uh-oh. I'm not sure why this is puckered. I don't see any puckering there. But these are puckers. If you want someone to prepare for a kiss, you tell them, pucker up. That means get ready for a kiss. That means do this. I don't see any. I didn't know that this was a thing, puckered seams. I guess this is like bad clothing making, and they call those puckered seams. So here's the first puckered lips that we've seen. Huh. Whoops. Just a line. Mina sleeps soundly, and her breathing is regular. Her forehead is puckered. Maybe something like that. Her forehead is puckered into little wrinkles, as though she thinks, even in her sleep. She's still too pale, but doesn't look so haggard. Haggard means like maybe tired. You know, maybe like dark circles under the eyes. Hair maybe in bad condition. She doesn't look so haggard as she did this morning. Tomorrow will, I hope, mend all of this. That word mend means to fix. She will be herself at home in Exeter. Oh, but I'm sleepy. Dr. Seward's Diary, 1st of October. I'm puzzled. Puzzled means confused. Afresh about Renfield. His moods change so rapidly that I find it difficult to keep touch of them, as they always mean something more than his own well-being. They form a more than interesting study. This morning, when I went to see him after his repulse of Van Helsing, his manner was was that of a man commanding destiny. He was, in fact, commanding destiny subjectively. He did not really care for any of the things of mere earth. He was in the clouds and looked down on all the weaknesses and wants of us poor mortals. To be mortal, mortal means to. You have the word mort, which means die, death, has something to do with death. And mortal means something that has the ability to die, or something is dying. So if it's kind of like the opposite of gods. Before Christianity, you had like the Greek gods and the Roman gods, and those gods were called immortals, meaning they could never die, and they would refer to people as mortals. Mortals are things that have the ability to die. Where was that word? So, and that's, let's read that again. He did not really care for any of the things of mere earth. So Renfield is acting crazy. He thinks he's like a god. And he was in the clouds looking down on all the weaknesses and wants of us poor mortals. So he's feeling immortal like a god, and he looks at these other people around him as if they're inferior. They're just mortals. They could die. I could never die because I'm a god. I thought I would improve the occasion and learn something, so I asked him, "What about the flies these times?" He smiled on me in quite a superior sort of way, such a smile as would have become the face of Malvolio. I don't know who that is. Let's see who Malvolio is. Maybe that's a Roman god. Let's see, Malvolio. But remember, mal means evil or bad. Malvolio is a fictional character from William Shakespeare's comedy Twelfth Night, written around 1601. He is the steward of the household of Lady Olivia. He smiled on me in quite a superior sort of way, such as a smile as would have become the face of Malvolio, as he answered me, "The fly, my dear sir, has one striking feature. Its wings are typical of the aerial powers of the psychic faculties. The ancients did well when they typified the soul as a butterfly." Sircon has translated Malvolio, mal, ill, and volio, will. That makes sense. I thought I would push his analogy to its utmost logically, so I said quickly, "Oh, it is a soul you're after now, is it?" His madness foiled his reason. Foiled means like ruined. And a puzzled look spread over his face as, shaking his head with a decision which I had but seldom seen in him, he said, "Oh, no. Oh, no. I want no souls. Life is all I want." Here he brightened up. Brightened up means looked happier. Started to. So first he was very serious, and then suddenly he looks very happy. He brightened up. "I'm pretty indifferent about it at present. Life is all right. I have all I want. You must get a new patient, doctor, if you wish to study zoophagy." This puzzled me a little. I drew him on. "Then you command life? You are a god, I suppose?" He smiled with an ineffably benign superiority. So remember, benign means like that word bene means good. So when you see that in a word, that usually means something good. So somebody who's superior, but also very generous and kind and good. But let's define affable. Able to be expressed uh, or described in words. So something is effable, it's something that is easy to describe in words. So ineffable maybe means you can't really put it in words. Let me just make sure about that. And then it says that effable is not a common word, but ineffable is, and that means something that you cannot put into words. Too great, extreme, or beautiful to be expressed or described in words. So he smiled with an ineffably benign superiority. So he's feeling like a god and he's acting like a god, very superior, but also not in an evil way. Like he's being generous to those under him. He's being benign, and but it's so weird that it's not easy to describe. You can't really put it into words. Sircon put fable and then fably. I'm not sure what you're trying to say there. Can you can you rephrase that in some way? He smiled with an ineffably benign superiority. Oh no! Far be it from me to arrogate to myself the attributes of the deity. Uh, he's speaking in a very weird way. Deity means God. When you see that word deus, something like that, dios, deus, that's a Latin word for God. And a deity is like one of many gods usually. Well, it just means like a god, but usually it's in reference to one particular god of a group of gods, something like that. Deity. And he's saying, "Oh no, no, I'm not like a deity. I'm not like a god. I'm not even concerned in his especially spiritual doings. If I may state my intellectual position, I am, so far as concerns things purely terrestrial. That word terra, that means land or ground or earth. And actually, uh, maybe if you've been doing Gone with the Wind with me, the name of the farm of Scarlett's plantation is called Tara. So that means earth. When you see that terra, terrestrial, Tara, that all has to do with the ground or the earth or the dirt. So when he says, "Oh, my concerns are terrestrial," that means my concerns are about this world, about this earth where we live. I don't know anything about gods. I don't know anything about anything after this. If I may state my intellectual position, I am, so far as concerned things purely terrestrial, somewhat in the position which Enoch occupied spiritually. This was a poser to me. I could not at the moment recall Enoch's appositeness. Appositeness? I don't know what that word is. Enoch is a character in the Bible. I think he was the father or grandfather of Noah. I don't know. Uh, they say that Noah's Ark landed somewhere in Turkey. Do you know that place, Sircon? Positness. Appositeness is a noun that refers to the quality of being highly appropriate, relevant, or suitable for a particular situation or purpose. What? Quality of being highly appropriate, relevant. Okay, so he's saying, why is he mentioning Enoch? So this is like a very obscure character in the Bible. It's just, I mean, the famous person would be the grandson, Noah. And so why is he mentioning him? It doesn't make any sense. That's why he's using that word, appositeness. But I forgot what I was going to say. So this was a poser to me. I could not at the moment recall Enoch's appositeness. Like, well, what does Enoch have to do with whatever this is you're talking about? So I had to ask a simple question, though I felt that by doing so, I was lowering myself in the eyes of the lunatic. And why with Enoch? Because he walked with God. I could not see the analogy, but did not like to admit it, so I harked back to what he had denied. So you don't care about life, and you don't want souls. Why not? I put my question quickly and somewhat sternly, on purpose to disconcert him. To disconcert someone means to make them feel uncomfortable. Before Sircon says, before Noah's flood, before the storm. Yeah. I think they usually call that the deluge. That's the French word for flood. Deluge. And but I think the Latin would be antediluvian. Ante means before, and diluvian means flood. So the antediluvian world. The effort succeeded, and for an instant he unconsciously relapsed into his old servile manner, bent low before me, and actually fawned upon me as he replied. So to fawn upon someone is to pay very special attention to them, to treat them very nicely. So he bent low before me, and he actually fawned upon me as he replied, I don't want any souls. Indeed, I don't. I couldn't use them if I had them. They would be no manner of use to me. I couldn't eat them, or... He suddenly stopped, and the old cunning look spread over his face like a wind sweep on the surface of the water. And doctor, as to life, what is it after all? When you've got all you require, and you know that you will never want, that is all. I have friends, good friends, like you, Dr. Seward. This was said with a leer of inexpressible cunning. A leer is like a look. Let me get a better description of that. Leer is a noun, a look or gaze, often with a sly, unpleasant, or malicious intent. So it's kind of an evil look. Where was that? This was said with a leer of inexpressible cunning. So he was giving an evil look, but there was also a lot of, like, there was some kind of plan behind it. I don't know if I can leer. I know that I shall never lack the means of life. I think that through the cloudiness of his insanity, he saw some antagonism in me. For he at once fell back on the last refuge of such as he, a dogged silence. After a short time, I saw that for the present it was useless to speak to him. He was sulky, and so I came away. Later in the day he sent for me. Ordinarily, I would not have come without special reason, but just at present I am so interested in him that I would gladly make an effort. Besides, I am glad to have anything to help pass time. Harker is out, following up clues. And so our Lord Godalming and Quincy. Van Helsing sits in my study, poring over the record. Poring over something means to be reading something with a lot of attention. Van Helsing sits in my study, poring over the record prepared by the Harkers. He seems to think that by accurate knowledge of all details he will light upon some clue. He does not wish to be disturbed in the work without cause. I would have taken him with me to see the patient, only I thought that after his last repulse he might not care to go again. There was also another reason. Renfield might not speak so freely before a third person as when he and I were alone. I found him sitting in the middle of the floor on his stool, a pose which is generally indicative of some mental energy on his part. When I came in, he said at once, as though the question had been waiting on his lips, "What about souls?" It was evident that my surmise had been correct. Unconscious cerebration was doing its work. That word cerebral, that means brain. So this is a strange word, cerebration, but it means like maybe unconscious workings of the brain. Even with the lunatic, I determined to have the matter out. "What about them yourself?" I asked. He did not reply, but for a moment looked all around him and got up and down as though he expected to find some inspiration for an answer. "I don't want any souls," he said in a feeble, apologetic way. The matter seemed preying on his mind, so I determined to use it. To be cruel, only to be kind. So I said, "You like life, and you want life?" "Oh, yes." "That's all right. You needn't worry about that." "But," I asked, "how are we to get the life without getting the soul also?" This seemed to puzzle him, so I followed it up. "A nice time you'll have some time when you're flying out here, with the souls of the thousands of flies and spiders and birds and cats buzzing and twittering and moaning all around you. You've got their lives, you know, and you must put up with their souls. To put up with something means to tolerate something. So you've taken their lives, so now you have to tolerate their souls following you around." Something seemed to affect his imagination, for he put his fingers in his ears and shut his eyes, screwing them up tightly, just as a small boy does when his face is being soaped. There was something pathetic in it that touched me. It also gave me a lesson, for it seemed that before me was a child, only a child. Though the features were worn and the stubble on the jaws was white. Let me show you what stubble is. Stubble is when you don't shave, but you don't really have a beard or a mustache. Sometimes I'm lazy and I don't shave for a few days, and then I get stubble. This is stubble. It also gave me a lesson, for it seemed that before me was a child, only a child. Though the features were worn and the stubble on the jaws was white, this is your jaw, and knowing how his past moods had interpreted things seemingly foreign to himself, I thought I would enter into his mind as well as I could and go with him. The first step was to restore confidence, so I asked him, speaking pretty loud so that he would hear me through his closed ears, "Would you like some sugar to get your flies around again?" He seemed to wake up all at once, and he shook his head. So shaking your head, that means saying no. This is shaking your head. If he said yes, he would be nodding his head. With a laugh, he replied, "Not much. Flies are poor things after all." After a pause, he added, "But I didn't want their souls buzzing around me all the But I don't want their souls buzzing around me all the same." Or spiders? He's trying to tempt him with all these insects. I went on, "Blow spiders. What's the use of spiders? There isn't anything in them to eat." He stopped suddenly, as though reminded of a forbidden topic. So, I thought to myself, this is the second time he had suddenly stopped at the word drink. What does it mean? Renfield seemed himself aware of having made a lapse, for he hurried on, as though to distract my attention from it. "I don't take any stock at all in such matters. Rats and mice and such small deer, as Shakespeare has it. Chicken feed of the larders, they might be called. I'm past all that sort of nonsense. You might as well ask a man to eat molecules with a pair of chopsticks, as to try to interest me about the less carnivora, when I know what is before me." So carne means meat, and that word vor means to eat. So carnivora are things made of meat that you can eat. How did he use it here? I'm past all that sort of nonsense. You might as well ask a man to eat molecules with a pair of chopsticks. Chopsticks, those are in Asia, they eat with the two sticks. Those are chopsticks. As to try to interest me about the less carnivora. So he's saying I'm done with spiders and rats, these lower things made of meat that I can eat, when I know what is before me. So he says, I don't think about cats and rats and mice and spiders anymore, because I'm thinking of what I can eat later. Uh-oh, what is he talking about? "I see," I said. "You want big things that can make your teeth meet in. How would you like that to breakfast on an elephant?" Oh, what ridiculous nonsense you're talking. He was getting too wide awake, so I thought I would press him hard. "I wonder," I said reflectively, "what an elephant's soul is like." The effect I desired was obtained, for he at once fell from his high horse and became a child again. If you're sitting on a high horse, that means you think you're superior. So if somebody is acting like they're better than you, or too good for you, or they think they're better than everyone else, you might tell them, "Get off your high horse." So that's a phrase that means to be acting superior. So remember earlier, he was acting like a god and, talking to the mortals. And now he fell from his high horse, and now he's acting like a child. He's not acting superior anymore. "I don't want an elephant's soul, or any soul at all," he said. For a few moments he sat despondently. Suddenly he jumped to his feet with his eyes blazing and all the signs of intense cerebral excitement. So again, we have that word cerebral. That means brain activity. Cerebral excitement. The brain is very excited. "To hell with you and your souls," he shouted. "Why do you plague me about souls? Haven't I got enough to worry and pain to distract me already without thinking of souls?" He looked so hostile that I thought he was in for another homicidal fit, so I blew my whistle. The instant, however, that I did so, he became calm and said apologetically, "Forgive me, doctor. I forgot myself. You don't need any help. I'm so worried in my mind that I'm apt to be irritable. If you only knew the problem I have to face, and that I'm working out, you would pity and tolerate and pardon me. Pray, do not put me in a strait waistcoat." We've looked at a picture of that already, but I'll just, to remind you, or unless you didn't see it before, I'll show you what he's talking about. This would be something that they would, if somebody were out of control and acting really crazy, they would put you in this so that you couldn't hurt yourself or hurt other people. Now you call it a straitjacket. Or maybe in the UK they still call it a strait waistcoat. I don't know. But in North America you would call that a straitjacket. Pray do not put me in a strait waistcoat. I want to think, and I cannot think freely when my body is confined. I'm sure you'll understand. He had evidently self-control, so when the attendants came, I told them not to mind, and they withdrew. Renfield watched them go, and when the door was closed, he said with considerable dignity and sweetness, "Dr. Seward, you've been very considerate towards me. Believe me that I'm very, very grateful to you." I thought it well to leave him in this mood, and so I came away. And there's certainly something to ponder. Ponder means to think about. There's certainly something to think about over this man's state. Several points seem to make what the American interviewer calls a story, if one could only get them in proper order. Here they are. Will not mention drinking. Fears the thought of being burdened with the soul of anything. Has no dread of wanting life in the future. Despises the meaner forms of life altogether. Mean in this case means like primitive. So he hates things like bugs and spiders, maybe even rats. Although rats I think are kind of smart. Though he dreads being haunted by their souls. So he despises the meaner forms of life. He hates the lower forms of life, but he's afraid of being haunted by their souls. Logically, all these things point one way. He has assurance of some kind that he will acquire some higher life. He dreads the consequence, the burden of a soul. Then it is a human life he looks to. And the assurance? Mercy God, the Count has been to him, and there's some new scheme of terror afoot. I went round to Van Helsing and told him my suspicion, and he grew very grave. After thinking the matter over for a while, asked me to take him to Renfield. I did so, and he came to the door, and we heard the lunatic within singing gaily, as he used to do in the time which now seems so long ago. And when we entered, we saw with amazement that he had spread out his sugar as of old. The flies, lethargic with the autumn, were beginning to buzz into the room, and we tried to make him talk of the subject of the previous conversation, but he would not attend. He went on with his singing, just as though we had not been present. He had got a scrap of paper and was folding it into a notebook. We had come away as ignorant as we went in. His is a curious case indeed. We must watch him tonight. Letter Mitchell and Sons, Candy to Lord Godalming, 1st of October. My Lord, we are at all times only too happy to meet your wishes. We beg, with regard to the desire of your lordship expressed by Mr. Harker on your behalf to supply you the following information concerning the sale and purchase of number 347 Piccadilly. The original vendors, a vendor means a seller, are the executors of the late Mr. Archibald Winter Suffield. The purchaser is a foreign nobleman, Count de Ville, who effected the purchase himself, paying the purchase money in notes over the counter. If your lordship will pardon us using so vulgar an expression. Beyond this, we know nothing whatever of him. We are, my lord, your lordship's humble servants, Mitchell, Sons, and Candy. Dr. Seward's Diary. 2nd of October. I placed a man in the corridor last night and told him to make an accurate note of any sound he might hear from Renfield's room, and gave him instructions that if there should be anything strange, he was to call me. After dinner, when we had all gathered round the fire in the study, Mrs. Harker having gone to bed, we discussed the attempts and discoveries of the day. Harker was the only one who had any result, and we are in great hopes that the clue may be an important one. Before going to bed, I went round to the patient's room and looked in through the observation trap. So that means, maybe have you ever seen like the little thing that they open to look inside the room? I think that's what the observation trap is. He was sleeping soundly. His heart rose and fell with regular respiration. This morning the man on duty reported to me that a little after midnight he was restless. That means he was moving around a lot. He had a lot of energy and didn't know what to do with it, and kept saying his prayers somewhat loudly. I asked him if that was all, and he replied it was all that he heard. There was something about his manner so suspicious that I asked him point blank if he had been asleep. He denied sleep, but admitted to having dozed for a while. We've seen that word dozed before. That's when you're trying not to sleep, but you go to sleep anyway. It's too bad that men cannot be trusted unless they are watched. Today Harker is out following up his clue, and Art and Quincy are looking after horses. Godalming thinks that it would be well to have horses always in readiness, for when we get the information which we seek, there will be no time to lose. We must sterilize all the imported earth between sunrise and sunset. To sterilize something means to make it clean. I don't know what that means. Maybe that means like it's evil dirt. I think that the bodies of the vampires are in there. So when he says sterilize, that means kill all the vampires that are in the boxes. I'm not sure, but sterilize means to take away all the unclean things. We must sterilize all the imported earth between sunrise and sunset. We shall thus catch the Count at his weakest, and without a refuge to fly to. Or maybe that means like putting garlic, putting the things that they hate inside. Van Helsing is off to the British Museum looking up some authorities on ancient medicine. The old physicians took account of things which their followers do not accept, and the professor is searching for witch and demon cures, which may be useful to us later. I sometimes think we must be all mad, and that we shall wake to sanity in strait waistcoats. Later we've met again. We seem at least to be on track, and our work of tomorrow may be the beginning of the end. I wonder if Renfield's quiet has anything to do with this. His moods have so followed the doings of the Count that the coming destruction of the monster may be carried to him some subtle way. If we could only get some hint as to what passed in his mind between the time of my argument with him today and his resumption of fly-catching. It might afford us a valuable clue. He is now seemingly quiet for a spell. No, we've talked about that. We've even practiced that word, spell. Spell is a period of time. He is now seemingly quiet for a spell. Is he? That wild yell seemed to come from his room. The attendant came bursting into my room and told me that Renfield had somehow met with some accident. He had heard him yell, and he went to him, found him. There should be a comma there. That's why it's confusing. It seems like there should be. Anyway, when he went to him, found him lying face down on the floor, all covered with blood. I must go at once. So there we go, another cliffhanger. All right, that is the end of chapter 20. And Pachu, are you still here? I haven't heard from you. You haven't asked any questions in a while. What we would do now, if anybody wants to practice, if Pachu is still here, maybe he's disappeared, is I will bring you in on Discord, and we can practice pronunciation. So there's a link to my Discord server in the description if you would like to volunteer. And what I will do is take a 1-minute break, and Pachu usually likes to participate, but I don't know where he is. So I will give him a minute or two to come, or to see if anybody else would like to volunteer. And then we will practice pronunciation and some of the vocabulary words that we've been talking about for the past chapter. All right, so I will return in about a minute. Okay, well, it looks like I don't have any volunteers today, so I think we'll be ending here. So thank you everybody for watching tonight, and I think I'll be back tomorrow morning. I have to check. Well, I'll put it on the schedule now if I can do it. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments and questions. And oh, Pachu's here. Okay, well, never mind. We can practice. All right, just 1 second then. Let me. Let me just get the vocabulary words ready. Okay. I'm just setting up our vocabulary words, and then Pachu will join us on Discord. And then. Oh no. Sorry, it would just take one moment. I'm just preparing the vocabulary because I think it's better to do this now than try to get it done while we're practicing. You just have to give me 1 second. I'm painfully aware of how long this takes. I feel bad making you wait. But it's better now to do it in the front so we don't have to do it in the middle. Okay. All right. Let me turn off this music. And now we'll bring in Mr. Pachu. All right. Hello. Hello.
Hello,
Hello. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Oh, that was a pretty good great you just did there. So that was a great that you did. All right. Okay. So these are three words that we got from today's reading from today's chapter. And the first word that we have is scatter. Have you seen that word before? Scatter?
Yes, sir. Yes.
What does it mean?
Scatter means spread in different direction.
Okay, in a very disorganized sort of way. That's right. All right.
Yes.
So let's take a look at the example. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Can you see that? Do you see the first sentence? The wind.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Can you read it?
The wind scattered the leaves all over the yard.
What does that mean? What do you imagine when you read that sentence? What is the idea?
Means uh, wind scattered means uh, spread all in all directions or in unorganized way.
Yeah,
The leaves.
you can imagine it could be pretty messy.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. If you look at the first three words of that sentence, how would you read the first three words of that sentence together?
The the wind scattered.
What do you think are the big sounds in that?
The wind. Wind.
Okay. The the wind scattered. The wind scattered. So how would you read that? How will you read those three words together?
The winds scattered.
Okay. Let's make this big. The wind scattered. Maybe scattered too, though.
Yes.
I think that might be good. It's
S-
not very good for our rhythm.
Scattered.
The wind scattered.
The winds scattered.
Uh huh. If you read the next, well, just read the rest of the sentence. Which words do you think are important in the rest of the sentence?
The leaves all over the yard.
Okay, and which words would you say are important in the rest of the sentence?
The leaves
Leaves. Okay. What else?
and the yard. It's yard.
The wind scattered the leaves all over the yard. Okay. What does all over mean?
Everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. And when you have two words that always go together, which word usually gets
Yeah.
the attention?
Is a first. Is a
Okay.
all over.
But I think we have some flexibility here. And I think, because we want to maintain our big, small pattern, I think that we could make an exception and change. Normally, you would say all over. But because we want to have the big, small pattern, we could switch it here. And that would be okay. All over
Yes.
the yard.
All over the yard.
Yeah, because that way you get to keep that pattern. Big, small, big, small. The wind scattered
Yes.
the leaves all over the yard.
The wind scattered the leaves all over the yard.
Okay, is it leaves or leaves?
It's a leaves. Leaves.
Leaves. Make it big.
Leaves.
Leaves.
Yes. Leaves.
Yeah, and when you make the e, you pull your tongue back. Make your tongue really tense. Leaves.
Leaves.
The wind scattered
Leaves.
leaves all over the yard.
The wind scattered the leaves all over the yard.
Okay. All right. How many phrases do you think we could divide this sentence into?
Is it two?
Okay, what are the two phrases?
The wind scattered the leaves and all over the yard.
Sorry, I think I have to. Uh, I think my dog needs to go outside. I have to take her outside for a minute. I'll be back in
Okay.
one minute.
Yes, sir.
Sorry about that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. What is the first phrase?
The wind scattered the leaves.
Okay. And how do you want this to sound? Do you want this to sound nice and friendly or serious?
Yes. So serious.
Serious? Okay. So, how will this start? How do you start a phrase? Do you start it high or low usually?
Is a high tone.
Okay, so how would that sound?
So uh, is scattered,
The wind,
scattered,
the wind scattered. The wind scattered. The wind scattered. The wind
the
scattered.
the the wind scattered.
Okay, but then by the time we get down to here, because you want to sound serious, make the whole thing low.
Uh,
The wind scattered the leaves.
the wind scattered the leaves.
Okay. How about in the second phrase? Do you want to also sound serious in the second phrase?
Yes, yes.
All right.
Serious.
So what color is yard?
It's blue.
Okay. And but how will you start the phrase?
As over is high,
Yeah, because when you
red.
normally when you start a phrase, it will have a high sound, but then you finish sounding serious. Yard. All over the yard.
All over the yard.
The,
All over the yard.
the wind scattered the leaves all over the yard.
The wind scattered the leaf all over the yard.
Okay. Can you make a where question like where wind scatter leaves? How would you do that?
Yes. Where, where did the wind scatter the leaves?
What is your most important word in your question, do you think?
Is a where,
Where.
where,
So how would that sound if you put where plus did plus the?
uh, where did the, where did the,
Where did the? Where did,
where did, where did the, where did the,
where did the wind?
where did the wind,
Where did the wind scatter the leaves?
where did the wind scatter the leaves,
Uh-huh.
the leaves?
So and what is your answer? Where did the wind scatter the leaves?
The wind scattered the leaves all over the
Oh, okay.
yard.
Is it leaves or leaves?
The leaves, the leaves.
Can you say it again? The wind scattered the leaves all over the yard.
The wind scattered the leaves
Okay, is it
all over the yard.
leaves or leaves?
Leaves.
Try again.
Okay. So the wind scattered the leaves all over the yard.
Leaves or leaves?
Is it leaves?
hmm
Leaves.
Try again.
Leaves. The wind scattered the leaves.
hmm
Leaves
hmm
a- all over the yard.
Okay, that was good. All right. So let's move on to our next sentence.
Yes.
So to be off, that's very common. That's a very common thing to say. It means leaving. Leaving. I am off. That means I'm leaving. I'm off. But you when you do that, when off means leaving, you have to really emphasize the word off. So that's always going to be an important word in this situation. Oh, my computer is acting weird. Oh God, this is frustrating today. I don't know. Uh, Here we go. Let me try to move this up. Can you see the sentence?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So can you read that sentence? What does it mean? Or what does it say?
Okay, so can you
Oh, you see, I'm having trouble for some reason. My screen keeps switching. I can't see what you can see. Well, let's see.
can you read?
There we.
Okay, now yeah, yes, it is okay now. Yes.
All right.
So we should be off now, or we'll miss the movie.
So what does that mean? We should be off now.
Off means leave. Yeah, we
Okay.
should be leave now.
And when off means leave, you have to give a lot of attention to that word. We should be off now.
Okay, off now,
Yeah. You.
off now.
So it's not just a regular off. This off is special. It means leave. So we should be off now.
Okay, so we should be off now. Is off now.
Yeah. So that means we should leave now or we'll miss the movie. All right. So in that first phrase, we should be off now. What are the important words?
So off. You should be off now. Now is also
If you emphasize now here, I don't know. It sounds like we should be off now. That sounds like it's an emergency if you emphasize the word now.
yes,
I think off.
yeah, something.
I think off is the important word here.
Okay, yes, yes, okay.
We should. That could be the only important word in this phrase. How do you pronounce that whole phrase?
So high tone.
Well,
We should
let's not worry about the music yet. Let's just get the rhythm.
okay. We should be off now.
Yeah, we should be off now. So we should
Yeah.
be, that just sounds like one little word. We should be off now.
We should be off now.
Yeah. Okay, now in the second phrase, what would you say are the important words?
So we'll miss the movie. Miss
Miss, okay. Anything else?
and the movie.
Okay. All right. So now we have our rhythm. Now we have we can add some music to it. But let's try the rhythm first. We should be off now or we'll miss the movie.
We should be off now, or we'll miss the movie.
Mhm. Yeah, we should be off now or we'll miss the movie.
We
All right.
should be off now, or we miss the movie.
How do you want to sound? Do you want to sound wait, how many phrases should we divide this sentence into first of all?
We should be off now is first,
Okay.
or we'll miss the movie.
Mhm. So two. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Now, how do you want to sound? Do you want to sound serious or friendly when you say this?
So yes, friendly.
Friendly? Okay. So that means that we want to finish we'll have to do two things when we say the final part of this phrase. We'll want to go high, but we'll have to finish low because you always finish low when you're not always. You mostly finish low when you're finishing a phrase.
Yeah.
So that would be off now.
It's off now.
How do you start the phrase? How should this phrase start?
It's a high.
Okay. We should be off now.
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 Okay. And how about the second phrase? Do you want this to sound friendly or serious?
The serious.
Serious? Okay. So how should we finish the phrase? In a high way or a low way?
Is a low.
In a low way? Okay. Movie.
It's a movie
Okay. But how should the phrase start?
is a
High. Yeah, because
high tone.
normally we'll start your phrase in a high tone. So, or we'll miss the
Yeah.
movie.
Always or will miss the movie.
Or we'll miss the movie.
Or will miss the movie.
We should be off now, or we'll miss the movie.
We should be we should be off now or we'll miss the movie.
Okay. Can you make a mm, what we going to miss question?
So what should be
What we going to miss?
uh,
What we going to miss?
what 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 are we going to miss?
Yeah. So what can you make an if question? So if if no off now, what we going to miss?
If not off now,
Yeah, so you have to I'm not giving you all the words. You have to think about how to make that question. If not off now, what we going to miss?
i- if we if we should not off now,
You can just say if we are not off now. That means if we don't leave now. If we are not off now, and remember you have to put a lot of emphasis on the word off because it means something different here. It means leave. It doesn't mean not on. It's not the opposite of on here. It means leave.
so if we should not off now,
Forget about the word should. Just say if we are not off now.
if we are not off now,
What?
what are we going?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Uh, if we are not off now, what we are going to miss?
No, you have to use the question form in your question part.
Okay, so uh, if we are not going
If we
off now,
if we're not off now, if we don't leave now, if we are not off now,
if we are not off now,
what?
uh, what are we missing?
Oh, okay. What are we missing, or what are we going to miss? Let's say what are we
What are we
do that? What are we going to miss?
what are we going to miss?
Now, in your question, what are we going to miss? What do you suppose would be the most important word?
So, mm, what are we going to miss? What?
What? Okay. How will you say what are we together?
So, what are we? What are we?
What are we? What are we?
What are we?
What are,
What are we?
what are we going to miss?
What are we going to miss?
If we're not off now, what are we going to miss?
If we are not off now, what are we going to miss?
Okay, but it's very important because off means something very special here to put a lot of emphasis on that word. If we are not off now, what are we going to miss?
If we are not off now,
Mhm.
what are we going to miss?
Now, is it now or now?
It's a now. It's
Now.
now.
Try again.
If we are not off now,
Hmm.
what are we going to miss?
What are we? And what is the answer to your question? If we're not off now, what are we going to miss?
So if we are not off now, we are going to miss the movie.
Okay, if we're not off now, we're going to miss the movie. That's right. If we don't leave now, we're going to miss the movie. That's right.
Uh,
Okay. Let's do one more. Okay, I have this phrasal verb which is come across. Have you ever seen
Yes.
phrasal verb before? Come across.
Yes.
You have? What does it mean?
A encounter.
Okay, it means like to find and perhaps by accident, not on purpose.
Yes.
Okay, can you see the example sentence that I have up here?
Yes, sir.
Do you see it?
Yes, sir.
Oh, can you read it, please?
Okay, sir. He came across an interesting article online about a space exploration.
Okay. So does that sentence make sense? That means he found it by accident. He wasn't looking for it. It just appeared.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Uh, those first three words, he came across. What do you suppose he came across? He came across. Which word do you think we should emphasize in those first three words?
Across.
Okay, he came across. Yeah, that would be okay. And which syllable should we emphasize? Across.
Uh, across. Ross.
Cross. Cross.
Across.
Across. Across. What about the next two words? An interesting article. The next three words. An interesting article. What do you suppose?
An interesting.
Mhm.
An interesting article.
Where's the accent in that word? Interesting.
Interesting. Interesting.
Inter-
Interesting.
or you could say interesting. Interesting. Interesting.
Interesting.
Not
Oh, interesting.
not ingesting. Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's the
Interesting.
first syllable that you want to emphasize.
And generally, I do stays on second. Yeah, generally, but I I am wrong.
Yeah, it should be the first one. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, interesting,
Yeah,
interesting, interesting. Yeah.
that sounds better if you do it like that.
Yes,
How about
yes.
in the word article? Article. Article. That's three syllables. Where is the accent? Article.
Article, article as the first.
The first one? Okay.
Yes.
Uh, all right. So we have came across an interesting article.
He came across an interesting article.
Okay. And now the next word, online. Online. Where's the accent? Online. Line.
Online,
Online.
online line.
I think it's both. It's weird because if you say it just on the first word, online, that doesn't make it, that sounds horrible.
On,
If you say just the second syllable, online,
yeah,
again, that doesn't really.
online.
You have to say online. It seems like both syllables are accented.
Yes, okay. So online,
Hmm.
online.
But if we want to keep our big, small, big, small, big, small rhythm, which one do you think we should try to emphasize? On or line?
Online,
Which one?
online, on, online,
You came across an interesting article online. Online.
online, online,
Online. This is hard. This is a hard one. He came across an interesting article on
online, on,
online. Yeah, okay. I think we could do that. We can make that big.
yeah, on.
Okay. Online about. Okay. And this word about, do you think that that's a big word or a small word here?
About, is taking long time.
That's true.
There is also
This phrase, do you think it's a word that we should make big or try to make it small?
online about space,
How should
online about
our phrase, should it be big or small?
is a small,
Okay, so that would be online about. Online about.
online about.
He came across an interesting article online about.
He came across an interesting article online about.
Okay, and this is not came across, but came across. Ma, came across.
Came, he came across
He came across.
an interesting article.
hmm
Mm, He
Online.
he
Go ahead. Sorry.
okay, sir. So he came across an interesting article online about.
Okay. And now the final part, space exploration.
Yes,
Which words or which parts of words do you think should be big in this final part?
yes, space. The
Space.
space.
Okay, space. Make that
Yes,
big. All right. And how about exploration? Should anything be big in there, do you think?
Ex, exploration.
Ex-
Pole. Explore.
Explore. Well, you see, this is a big word. Let's see how many syllables. Exploration. It's four syllables, and
Yes,
if you have a word with more than three syllables, probably there would be two potential accents. Space.
okay.
So when you say that word exploration, which syllables sound big to you?
Exploration. Ray. Are.
Ray, yeah. Any other syllables?
Ex, ex, exploration.
Explo- exploration, exploration,
Ex.
X.
e-
Okay.
Yes.
Now,
Exploration.
so I think it depends which one you would focus on, depending on the big small rhythm. Do you think that X would be a good thing to focus on, or Ray, since we have a choice? Which one would fit big small rhythm?
Ray is okay.
Yeah,
Exploration.
yeah. I mean, sometimes it could be X, but I don't think so. Space exploration, that would sound weird, but space exploration, that sounds okay
Yeah.
because
Yes.
that keeps the big small rhythm. Okay. So we have,
Yes.
he
Yes.
came across an interesting article online about space exploration.
He came across an interesting article online about space exploration.
Okay. How many phrases do you think we could divide this sentence into?
So he came in across an interesting article online. Ec- Okay, so he came across an interesting article
Okay.
online.
All right. So that's one phrase, finishing it online.
Yes,
Okay. And
and about yes,
mhm. So two
yes,
phrases.
two phrases.
Okay. And how do you want to sound? Do you want to sound friendly and nice or serious?
So interesting. Sorry, friendly
Friendly? Okay. So how will you pronounce the final word in this phrase?
is a high tone.
But also it's you'd start it high, but you have to finish it kind of low because it's the end of a phrase.
Yes,
So
yes.
online, online,
It's online. It's
on,
online.
online.
Online. Online
How will you start it? How will you start this phrase?
is a high tone.
High tone, because you normally will start a phrase with a high tone. He came across an interesting
Yes.
article online.
He came across an interesting article online.
Okay. And how do you want the second phrase to sound? Do you want it to sound serious or nice and friendly?
So, yeah, they're friendly.
Friendly? Okay. So how will you pronounce that final word, exploration?
So, ray is high and sun is low.
Okay. So how will you say that then? How will that sound?
So, the high tone
Hmm.
about space exploration,
Ration, ration, ration.
ration, ration.
And how will you pronounce space? Would that be high?
Yes, space,
Space exploration.
space exploration.
Hmm. He came across an interesting article online about space exploration.
He came across an interesting article online about space exploration.
Can you make a what he come across online question?
What did he? What did he came
What,
across
what did he came across?
about? What did he came across
You've made a mistake. Can you try
on?
your mistake?
What did he come across
Hmm.
online about space exploration?
And forget about the about space. Just what did he come across online?
Okay. What did he come across online?
So what is the most? What do you think is the most important word in that question?
What is
What?
what?
Okay. How would what plus did plus he? How would that sound?
So what did what did
What did he?
what did
What did he? What did he? What did he?
what did he what did he
What?
what did he
What did he?
what did he what did he
What? What did he come across online?
what did he come across online?
Okay. Try again.
What did he come across online?
What did he come across online? Okay. What is the answer?
He came across an interesting article online.
He came across an interesting article online about space
He
exploration.
came across okay, he came across an interesting article online about space exploration.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that we have to finish here for today. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
I have to check my schedule, but I'll probably be back tomorrow morning to do Gone with the Wind if you're interested in joining me.
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for your questions, your comments. Thank you for participating. If you'd like to practice also, there's a link to the Discord server and you can join and practice with me live as well if you want to. All right. So we'll see everyone tomorrow. Thank you very much
Thank you, sir.
and
Bye bye.